Oh, can't you see? We're running out of time. You gotta lose your mind if you think you're doing fine. You can't describe it yet, but something is wrong. Where are your dreams now, and why don't you feel strong? Yeah, yeah. Every day, every night you try to find yourself. Don't live your life as someone else.
Good evening, one. Good evening, all. Welcome to another installment of the Wrestling Matters podcast. Now, I want to apologize for being away. I haven't been around to do the podcast for the past couple of weeks because the last couple of weeks or so, during that period of time, I had to say goodbye to my brother. I lost my brother due to cancer. So I've had to regroup a little bit. But I'm back. You don't get rid of me that easy. But yeah, I'm back. I'm back in business. So what we're going to do, we're going to catch up on a few things. I'm going to record some episodes. I've started recording a few episodes. And we're going to get some things sorted. So I've got one, as I'm doing this now, this is more than likely going to be out Sunday. And I'll do some more for next week as well. And also in a couple of weeks as well, I'll be doing some more stuff with Michael Larkin. That's right. Remember Michael? Yeah? We're back. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. We're going to do some stuff. I'm going to do some stuff for his show. I'm going to be doing some stuff for my show too. We're going to do my show and his show as well. Whatever he wants to do is fine with me. There's no rush about it. We will do the thing. Okay? But, yeah, it's going to be good to get back into some real wrestling. And no, we're not going to be cutting any promos. Anyway, I want to do this show today. Obviously, I want to talk about WrestleMania Backlash. And we will talk about that. But I also want to talk about the kit and caboodle that's been going on since I've been with you. Or since I haven't been with you, and that is the fact that Monday Night Raw, I believe it was last week, Sasha Banks and Naomi were meant to be in a six-pack challenge, but they walked out the company. So it's the talk of the town. I already know what's gone down. Okay? I already know what has gone down. But you know what? I agree with what's gone down. And I don't blame Sasha Banks. I say Sasha Banks. It was more Sasha than Naomi. But I don't blame Banks for what has happened. And I don't think a good majority of the wrestling world do. You always get these idiots that think, you know, they're in the wrong, the spoiled brats. I've seen that on Facebook, for crying out loud. But yeah, they've been suspended. Now, the thing was, this obviously went back to before WrestleMania. Actually, it went back before that, to be fair, with Banks. Not necessarily Naomi, but if you think about it, because when they first brought in these women's tag team titles, why they brought them in, I don't know. I mean, at the time, they were a good idea to do, you know, with this women's revolution thing. But there's no division in there. You know, there's no division in there. There's no tag teams that you could call tag teams in there. Hell, there's not in the friggin' men's division, for Pete's sake. The top two tag teams in the men's division are the Usos, the undisputed champions, or the now undisputed champions, and RK Bro. Find me a good team. Find me good teams, logic teams in the men's division. I'll wait. I'll be waiting a long time, that I know of. But yeah, because last year at WrestleMania, this whole thing went to shit to begin with, because last year at WrestleMania, not this year's WrestleMania, the one before, Sasha Banks and Bayley won the tag team titles for the very first time, you know, the first champions of this era. They won it in the Elimination Chamber, which was fine. You know, they won the belts. And then at that point, you obviously thought, maybe they're going to do some now stuff with the belts. They're going to make these belts mean something, you know. No, they didn't. Because 1 month later at WrestleMania, they lost the titles to the Iconics. Or as they were known at the time, Moronics. Trust me now, they're a lot better now than they were in WWE. Okay. What they are now in Impact Wrestling, they should have been in WWE. They might have got a bit more respect in WWE, but they didn't. But they're a lot better now. I believe they're in Impact Wrestling. They're a lot better now than they were. I've seen their work in Impact Wrestling. They're a lot better now than they were in WWE. But back then, they weren't. They were just moronics. They were just morons. And obviously, WWE put the belts on them. So that plan went to shit. And then they win the tag team titles this year. Sasha and Naomi. You know, Team Bad back together. Well, sort of. You know, but they were going to do something with them. Okay, let's give these some meaningful tag team runs. Let's put the belts on the line. Let's give the tag teams the opportunities they deserve. They didn't even have a match. It was mostly, I don't know who they defended with, who they had the title defense with. I know they defended it against Doomdrop and what they call it, if I remember correctly. Doomdrop and Nikki Ash. But I think that was it. I think that was their last title defense. And then, you know, it all went from there. And then this past Monday on Raw, they arrived at the arena and they got booked to be in this 6-pack challenge. It was them two, Becky, Asuka, Doomdrop, Nikki Ash. The winner gets a World Women's title shot against Bianca. Now, the plan was, what they were told, was Naomi to go over on Sasha. For what? And what does that do for the tag team titles, they say? And obviously, they did not like that. And apparently, they tried to stand up and be respectful from what I've got. You know, go around and ask people. And then the fucking goons at the creative decided, yeah, sort your attitude out. Like, they have the fucking nerve. Because they're the ones who booked this shit. But obviously, Sasha, I say Sasha, it's more Sasha than Naomi, but Naomi obviously didn't like it herself. And they obviously took the belts, got their briefcases, took the belts, put them on John Laurinaitis' desk, and walked. Can you blame them for that? I don't. Because what was the fucking point in putting the tag team titles on them in the first place? And at what benefit was it for Naomi to go over? Oh, I'll tell you the reason why. Because they wanted to use the tag team champions as goats. Not the greatest of all time. Like, I guess you could say guinea pigs. To Bianca Belair and Ronda Rousey. Because they don't feel that them two are over enough. So they obviously wanted Naomi to go against Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title and put her over. And they wanted Sasha to go against Ronda Rousey and put Ronda over. Correction, didn't she do that already? In Ronda's first run. And two, why does Ronda Rousey need to be over? Need to get over? Shouldn't her name value from where she was in MMA should not be enough to get her over? Yes, she's not very good at promos. I get that. But she is good for what she brings. And at what use is Sasha going going to have to put her over. I mean, they stunk the joint out, no offence to them both, but they stunk the joint out at WrestleMania, her and Charlotte. That's why they had the rematch at Backlash, which was 10 times better than the one at WrestleMania, by the way. I've got to admit, they should have had that match at WrestleMania, to be fair. I'll get to that later. But that's one thing. So, obviously, you can understand from that point, at least if you have a brain, you understand at that point Sasha was mad. But Naomi facing Bianca Belair to put her over and make her look good. Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you do that already with Bianca? Didn't you put her over at WrestleMania against Sasha? You know, the first black women to headline WrestleMania in the main event. You know? Didn't Sasha already do that? Oh, I know why. Because after that match at WrestleMania, you killed her off because you didn't put her against any established women, or you didn't give her any established women to face in her run. You know, you didn't give her any established women to go up against, to compete against, to push her to that next level as champion. And then, funnily enough, you ultimately killed her momentum and her impact by having Becky Lynch come back at SummerSlam and go over her in about 20 seconds. And you don't think she's over enough. You don't think Bianca is over enough. Now she's the women's champion again. Now she's a Raw Women's Champion. Whose fault is that, WWE? It's not Bianca's. It's not Bianca's. You know, it's not Naomi's. It's not Sasha's. It's not Ronda's. It's your fucking fault. And Bianca Belair not being over is not Naomi's problem. It's not Sasha's problem. It's fucking ridiculous. And you're going around telling them to fix their attitude. Give me a fucking break. No wonder the fucking creative team at WWE gets criticized all the fucking time. You know, people always say, oh, WWE is the place to be. With bullshit like this, you wonder why people are now going to AEW. And don't be surprised in a couple of months, because apparently Sasha and Naomi won't be on WWE live events until July, I guess, from what I've heard. Don't be surprised in a few months down the road, they end up in AEW. Because whether or not what goes on, at least AEW knows what they're doing. Because it's clear as day WWE doesn't. I mean, look what they've done with NXT, for crying out loud. NXT's felt the shit. And the only reason they put the NXT tag titles on NXT, the NXT women's tag team titles, is because at the time Triple H had no choice but to create tag team titles for the brand, because Vince McMahon, I guess, did not want the WWE tag team titles to be on NXT. They just wanted them to go back and forth with Raw and SmackDown. This is the side of the WWE that gives me a fucking headache, dude. When you read this shit and, you know, you just think, why? You just think, why? You know, why and what the fuck? Seriously. It's so fucking stupid. And now Sasha has been suspended. And so is Naomi. As of last night's Friday Night SmackDown, they have suspended them. You know? And apparently fucking Michael Cole, I know Michael Cole and even Corey Graves, bless his heart, said what they said and everything, and I know it wasn't their fault. Anyone with a purpose knows, or anyone with a brain knows, it wasn't their fault. You know, it wasn't their fault what they said and everything, because it was Vince micromanaging stuff. I mean, give me a break. You know, I mean, the statement that WWE released. Oh my days! I wonder if I can read that statement. Okay, if I can. Right. I wonder if I can read that statement. Have they got that statement here? Right. I don't know if I've got that here. Wait a minute, guys. So many pop-ups on these websites. But yeah, there was a statement that WWE released about Sasha Banks and Naomi. There was a statement that they released. And here it is here. Watch this. Listen to this. When Sasha Banks and Naomi arrived at the arena this afternoon for Raw, they were informed of their participation in the main event, which was a six-pack challenge. During the broadcast, they walked into WWE Head of Talent Relations John Laurinaitis' office with their suitcases in hand and placed their tag team titles on his desk and walked out. They claimed they weren't respected enough as tag team champions. You think? You think they weren't respected enough as tag team champions when you book a situation in that match for Naomi to go over on Sasha? What does that do for them two as tag team champions? Are you trying to split them up? Think about it. And even though they had 8 hours to rehearse and construct their match, fucking hell, 8 hours. Fucking hell. They claimed they were uncomfortable in the ring with two of their opponents. I have no idea who opponents they were. I don't know. It hasn't been said. I don't think it was Becky. And I don't think it might have been Doomdrop. I don't know. But I doubt, like I said, we don't know. I'm just, we're just pointing fingers at that. Even though they had matches with those individuals in the past with no consequences. Monday Night Raw is a scripted live TV show whose characters are expected to perform the right requirements. We regret not being able to deliver the advertised match. Well, technically you did. It just wasn't a six-pack challenge because you had Oscar and Becky go one-on-one. Pretty much. Oh, my days. I mean, what do you expect them to do? And then you've got these morons on Facebook and Twitter saying, oh, they're spoiled brats, they're divas and everything. Wouldn't you do that? Dax Harwood said it best. Man, Dax Harwood said it best. Always stand up for what you believe in. Always. Fucking always, dude. I've done that. I've questioned. I've been now a steward of 10 years at Middlesbrough Football Club. I haven't walked out on the club because at the end of the day, I'm not working for the supervisor or the assistant supervisor. I'm working for the club. But I've questioned my supervisor and my assistant supervisor. Not the new one. The old one I did. There were some decisions that they made and I questioned it. And I've had some differences with my assistant supervisor, let's just say that. We haven't always seen eye to eye on certain stuff. But at the end of the day, if I walked out on them, I'd be walking out on the club. Because at the end of the day, I just work on the stand. They're the supervisors and assistant supervisors. I just work on the stand. Bottom line is, at the end of the day, I work for the club. So, what it is what it is. But I've questioned them, and I've always stood up for what I believed in, because some of the stuff that was bullshit, and I still get some of that stuff today. The shit staring that goes on in that club, and I love that club to pieces. I really do. But there's a lot of shit staring. I've even told the bosses this as well. There's a lot of shit staring that goes on at that club. A lot of shit staring that goes on at that club. A lot of gaga that goes on at that club. So you can blame them for doing it. And there's a statement that was given, that someone that I believe gave permission to put out there about what happened leading into WrestleMania. This whole thing with Sasha, I don't blame them for doing that. Because they put the belts on them. What is the point of putting the belts on them if you're just going to put them in them situations? And like I said, Bianca not being over is not Bianca Belair's fault. It's not Sasha's fault. It's not Naomi's fault. It's WWE's fault. Because obviously now clearly they regret having Becky go over on her. And like I say, it's not even Becky's fault, for crying out loud. You know? Becky just came back. Was she aware that was what happened at SummerSlam was going to happen? I don't know. That's another story for another day. But Bianca Belair not being over is nothing. It's got nothing to do with Sasha. That's not Sasha's problem or even Naomi's problem. And Ronda Rousey not being over, you know, again, that's not Sasha's fault. But at the end of the day, Rousey should be over it, just on her name value and who she is. I mean, you guys stumped the joint out. You guys had the match with Ronda and Charlotte, and apparently they were going to be the night one WrestleMania main event. But you changed that, didn't you? Because you had Austin go on the main event instead, which pissed off Ronda. And probably pissed off Charlotte too. And then they stunk the joint out. Not much, but it wasn't the best WrestleMania match that them two have had. They had a better match at Backlash in that I Quit match because they literally beat the shit out of each other. You should have had that at WrestleMania. You should have booked that match at WrestleMania, the I Quit match, and let that happen. But you fucked it all up at WrestleMania because you let Austin and Kevin Owens go last. Not that that was a bad thing, because Austin returned, for crying out loud. But what was the point of telling them that they were going to be night one WrestleMania main event? You know, what was the point of telling them they were going to be night one WrestleMania main event? Oh no, we've changed our plans now. We're going to put Austin and Kevin Owens in there instead. Or we're going to put the Kevin Owens show in there. And you basically built the match with Kevin Owens on Austin as an impromptu match. And you wonder why people criticize the booking of WWE. You wonder why people criticize it. Because it comes across as stupid. And then you've got Road Dogg, bless his heart, coming out saying, you get paid millions of dollars and you're not getting told, and you're getting told to do this, and if you don't do it, you got something this. Dude, God almighty, you've gone corporate. This coming from a guy who used to be in DX, by the way. I'm just saying. All the respect in the world for Road Dogg, bro, but if you were in this situation with Billy, and you had Billy come there, but at the end of the day, he was part of the legendary tag team anyway. It's just crazy how WWE is, and now that they suspended them indefinitely, don't be surprised in a couple of months, guys, because apparently Sasha's contract's running out. Don't be surprised in a couple of months, guys, that she ends up as Mercedes on AEW. Don't be surprised, guys, because I could see that happening. Where Naomi goes, I don't think they're going to fire Naomi, because looking back on it now in retrospect, I don't know what they're going to do with Sasha, but looking back on it in retrospect, they ain't going to fire Naomi because of who she's married to. Uso. You know, the Hawaii family and Roman and all that. They want to keep them quiet. And they don't want to piss off The Rock because WWE is hell-bent on getting The Rock and Roman for next year's WrestleMania. And if they piss off Roman and piss off The Rock, their chances of having that match at next year's WrestleMania will be long and gone. So they want to keep everything sweet. Maybe they've suspended them until the heat dies down. I don't bloody know. That's WWE. You know, WWE logic, ladies and gentlemen. But I don't blame Sasha for what they've done. I don't blame Sasha. And then you've got Sasha saying, oh, she's manipulated Naomi. Bullshit. They're grown-ass women. Okay? Sasha is a grown-ass woman that just wants what's best for this so-called women's division. And you've seen that. You can see that. I mean, remember the time when she was Raw Women's Champion and they were playing hot potato with her and friggin' Charlotte over the Raw Women's title? What is wrong with having things make sense in wrestling business? Because a lot of things don't make sense in WWE at the moment. Most of it makes sense in AEW, but a lot of it doesn't make sense in WWE. And you wonder why the creative team gets the bollocks, gets a bollocking all the time. And people try to have the audacity to stick up for the creative team. Give me a break. It's so fucking stupid. So stupid. But we'll wait and see what happens down the road. We'll wait and see what happens down the road and down the pipeline. See if anything is going to happen. But, don't be surprised if you see them in there. If you see them in things. Because apparently WWE, because apparently AEW is bringing women's tag team divisions. God forbid they don't mess up the tag team division like they do in WWE. But the whole thing's just a mess. It truly, truly is a complete and utter mess. An absolute mess. Absolute clusterfuck. With that being said, though, folks, I'm going to run through quickly my opinion of what they call it. I'm going to run through my opinion, and just my opinion, of what they call it. WrestleMania Backlash. Because it was actually pretty decent. Sort of. There was a few bad points, but it was decent. Apparently NXT is going to have In Your House Saturday, June the 4th, and June the 5th is going to be Hell in a Cell. Oh, so wrestling on that weekend as well when I go away to the Ed Sheeran concert. Nice. Busy weekend for me then. I don't know if I'll be able to watch the... it's 8 p.m. Eastern, that's fine. I'll be back in town for that probably. Where's WrestleMania Backlash? WrestleMania Backlash. Here we go. Right. So, the Bloodline won the 6-man tag. I don't know why they didn't do the unification match on that. But apparently they did it on SmackDown. I don't know why they didn't do the unification match. So stupid. Cody beat Seth Rollins again. And because of Seth costing Cody the US title, now that it's going to be Seth and Cody in the main event, probably at Hell in a Cell in June 5th. Omos beats Bobby Lashley. Yeah. Edge and AJ Styles. Edge defeated AJ Styles again, this time with a little help from Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley's joined it. The match of the night was Charlotte and Rousey. I Quit beat down of the pair of them. Madcap Moss beats Corbin, and then Corbin destroys him on SmackDown in an angle. And then the 6-man tag, which we all knew Roman was going to win. So Roman and the Usos were going to win. So it was pretty much the same. And now with Roman's contract, who's apparently he's now a part-time wrestler, you're not going to see Roman at Hell in a Cell. So the next time he'll probably defend the titles, it will probably be July maybe, SummerSlam. Somewhere around about that. So we've got a part-timer pretty much as the Universal Champion. You might see him around here and there, but I don't know. Like I said. But yeah, the only good thing about that match at WrestleMania Backlash was Ronda Rousey. The Rousey I Quit match. They should have had that match. They should have sanctioned that match at WrestleMania. Then it might not have stunk the joint now. Because that match ended weird at WrestleMania between Rousey and Charlotte, I'll be honest with you. But anyway, I digress. But there you have it, guys. That about wraps it up for this episode of the podcast. Sorry there hasn't been any podcast, but I'm back. I might have some more for next week as well. And then the week after, next, it'll be me and Mike Larkin. We'll get some things going with me and Mr. Larkin as well. So yes, Mike Larkin coming to the show in a matter of a couple of weeks, which I'm very much looking forward to as well. So yeah, and don't worry guys, there ain't going to be no promos on that. There ain't going to be nothing. But it's going to shoot. That's what it is. Whatever topics we can get out of, we are going to tell it like it is, as we always do. Honesty is the best policy. Yeah. And apparently people always win. But when it comes to other shows, their fans don't. Anyway, I'll see you next time for another edition of the podcast. Stay safe. I'll see you then. Peace.
Can't you see we're running out of